Ohio State was ready. Ohio State's plan, when you talk about Indiana not having a plan and you being frustrated, Ohio State was the antithesis. Like all the false keys and the false pulls against Tennessee backers were flying themselves right out of position. Like unbelievable job diagnosing on the outside. If I got 4 and he's on an island, I'm throwing him the football. Great idea. Will Howard played exceptionally well. He dropped some balls in the absolute bucket. But again, here's what I saw with Will Howard, why I say coaching. It was very quick. It was very decisive. He knew exactly where he was going with the football. They got good matchups. They manipulated zones. They knew what Tennessee would drop in and how deep they would drop and worked underneath and got their ball to their freak shows. Like it was masterful.
And the biggest thing of that game, 2 things. One is I don't think Tennessee ever quite warmed up after coming out on the field with the shirts off. Everyone had their shirts off. Like that's kind of just not bright to me. That I wouldn't.
It's a tough guy move. Tough guy move. I'm not cold. You're cold.
No, I wouldn't do that.
By the way, in the NFL, when they did that, I first year in Cincinnati, when the guys wore all the short sleeves and stuff, they just coat themselves in Vaseline to stay warm. And I was like, what are you doing? They're like, it kind of closes your pores. I'm like, absolutely not. Why would I want to close my pore? No, I'm not doing that. That was kind of like the Toradol shots, Brent. Everybody would line up for Toradol shots, which is painkillers. And I'm like, no, I want to feel it if I get hurt. I'm not getting that daggum shot. But, yeah, I thought interesting tactic to try to come out there and look tough. Some sloppy bodies, by the way, some really sloppy bodies too. We need our best-looking guys to go out there shirtless.
Yes,
like
put the off the bus guys.
Yes, the great-looking guys. They might not play, but you don't know who their number is anyways. They're like freaking jacked out of their mind.
But the other part is the Tennessee or Ohio State just looked so much faster. That was the thing that, to me, watching the game, like obviously Henderson and Smith are different level of speed, but they looked even more different level of speed in this game. And it was, hey, we're just going to let our fast guys go side to side and then outrun you. They couldn't cover the running backs. They got the ball to the running backs in the passing game early. Henderson was
well, and that's Tennessee's weakness. Child. That's Tennessee's weakness. Tennessee's weakness is their linebacker play with the injuries and their safety play. Like I think they're really good at corner, but that's where Georgia exposed them. And Tennessee's defense definitely leaked oil down the stretch. Like they were bludgeoning people early, but I think the injuries did get a hold of them. Speaking of injuries, by the way, like Sampson changed the game.
No
too.
Sampson. Yeah,
I mean,
no Sampson.
Like, listen, Ohio State is clearly better. Don't get it twisted, Ohio State fans. I'm not saying that Tennessee would have won, but that is by far the engine that makes everything go. And listen, Heupel did a good job because when Sampson wasn't getting carries, I was like, what the heck? Why is he not getting carries like that? Because he makes yardage when it's not there consistently with his vision, with his physicality, with his speed. Like he's always falling forward, making it happen. And then what happened, Brent? It was a complete shift in philosophy. Nico has 13 carries in the first half. He had 12 against Georgia, and that was by far the most carries he had in a game. So literally, and you don't want your quarterback taking all those hits, man, especially a guy 6'6", kind of slightly built, who's already had a concussion this year. Like that's a tough deal to ask, but he kept sticking his nose in there, and his competitive spirit, I appreciated. I loved the way he fought, man.
His heart was keeping them in the game. Like otherwise, it would have been even uglier, even earlier. With the scrambles and things that he did. But it's fascinating how in all of these games, though, the road team had a chance to make plays early in games and just whiffed on making the plays. Because like SMU, we already talked about SMU. They had the 4th down. Either go get the first down, Jennings, or throw the touchdown. Indiana last night, get the early pick, and then you turn right around and throw another pick.
Throw one.
In this game. The very
face
first
mask
drive of the game.
Face mask was huge.
And then the second play, by the way, if Igbuka doesn't one hand touch that thing, that's an interception. That's right in the safety's chest. He makes
the touchdown to Smith was a great defensive play that was caught. And then the throw to Igbuka down the middle for the second touchdown, that was great coverage. Like
yeah.
It's
the
a
face
game
mask
of inches.
was a big thing. You're off the
Face
field on
mask
third
procedure.
down, like, and okay, first drive, your fans are there like crazy. Off the field on first down, get some confidence. It doesn't likely change the outcome, but it at least changes how long the game is competitive, I think, a little bit. So that's the home field advantage played big time in all of these matchups.
What's crazy is Nico got his first completion in the second quarter with like 9:30 left. Like, how does that happen? Like, Josh Heupel is a quarterback whisperer, a quarterback guru. Like, remember NIL, they paid Nico a lot of money to get him there. And there's a reason why. You can see it. He's a 6'6" stud. I gotta trust him more than they have. Like, they haven't trusted him all year, Brent. Like, they very much built it around defense and running game because I think that was the way they knew they had to win. You haven't seen Tennessee speed it up like they have in years past. Like, he wasn't ready for it yet. Interesting to see an offseason with Nico. Portal additions for Tennessee. To me, offensive line has to get better, and they need a guy out wide. They need a guy out wide that can win, because when I'm giving you all that space and you can't win, that's a problem. Like, they need some guys that can absolutely scoot and go, and then that offense becomes extremely, difficult to stop. But the defense of Ohio State too, by the way, that was freaking fantastic. But go ahead.
Shut it down. Well, two things with that. Heupel has to evolve. He has to, because he's against some of these teams, a la Georgia, now Ohio State, that have a good enough athletes to clamp them down on the outside and then still stop the run game. Like, there were times when Ohio State was a 4-man down front, and their backers were 5-6 yards deep, 7 yards deep, way off, like almost like it was a 4-man box. And they were daring Tennessee to run, and they couldn't. And you have to be able to, and with Nico's movement skills, you got to use it.
But they chose not to a lot of the times too, which I that's the part that I think you probably get frustrated with the most. Like, okay, fine. When you have that kind of number, I mean, Kirk kept talking about it. Like, look at the numbers in the box. Like, in no world, and this is what we talked about this the other night, Brett. Like, that's literally just players now. And here's the thing: I don't have to block them up that much because I have a QB that can run, and I have a running back next to me. Like, they tried speed option, that failed miserably. But I do think they've got to do a better job. But Samson, that was crazy that he wasn't there. And then Tennessee's defense they got destroyed. They got absolutely destroyed. Ohio State's defense, though, like, dude, they were awesome. They were so good, not giving up big plays. They had a
exactly
plan.
Where it needed to be.
Dude, the tempo was really, really good. You didn't see – a lot of times with Tennessee's offense, you see guys running free because of all the space, and they were locked and loaded. And listen, you know what's really good is when you've got a coordinator that you hired from the Big 12 that have seen all these offenses, man. Like, very familiar, and then you couple that with multiple weeks to prepare. I thought they were absolutely dialed in, and it's interesting because Sawyer and Fufu, number 44, like, I always watch them, Brent, and I think they're good players, but I never watch them and think they have like elite get off and elite traits. But like, Sawyer's a dog. I mean, he's a ball player, and they have a bunch of really, really, really good football players. Ransom, number 8, is a baller. Like, that dude is a baller. Their cornerbacks is the part we talked about being their weakness, has been handsy all year long, right? Like, they've given up some big plays. They held up more than fine in the back end too, which
Tennessee
can't happen. Tennessee's got to take advantage.
And Caleb Downs is also the biggest sort of freak show at that position that you have. But now we get the rematch. You get Oregon, who has to play maybe the most talented roster in the country, other than them and a couple others. Like, in that round, that's kind of not good for them. But still, you've at least played them, so you've at least prepared, and
almost beat them. Something. I mean, Ohio State also almost beat them.
Yes.
Like, yes. Ohio State, you could say, ran out of time. Like, they basically ran out of time, and they got Lanning, which I think that's a new It's a new phrase
And
that you got to use.
It's the opposite of what you talked about though, in terms of blowouts. I don't see that game one bit being one-sided. That's going to be a back and forth, like heavyweight fight between those two rosters and those two teams. And you especially when you're going to get the best version of Ohio State.